So welcome to our final basic sampler block here at Close to Home. What you need to do is to bring in your November block by December 31st to receive this December basic block for free. Registration is open for both Saturday samplers. You may consider doing this for basic this year, but maybe jumping up to intermediate next year. It's $25 registration, and that includes your January kit. Right now, at Christmas time, we're having a huge 20% off almost everything sale now until December 31st. Stop in, shop. Also, we have a great assortment of Finish the Bolts at 50% off. And we are adding classes to our new year. So come in and check out the classes and the samples that we have. And of course, our what we call our Black Friday sales on machines are still going on now until the end of the year. And one last sale is our Aero chairs are specially marked down to $288. Good time to pick up a chair for someone for the holiday. So that's it on our specials. Let's get into the block. This is the December basic block. And what we're going to be doing is a small 4-patch made into a larger 4-patch, made into a square on point block. So we're going to set this on point. So 2 different 4 patches that we're going to go over and on point. So very simple cutting. I've done all the cutting already. I've also put Mary Ellen's Best Press on my kit. It just makes it so much easier to cut and to sew with. The white fabric in your kit, you're going to cut 2 squares, 6 inches and 7/8. So 6 and 7/8 inches, and you're going to cut that on the diagonal 1 time. The whites are going to be our corner squares for our on-point block. The feathers are the larger of the squares. You're going to need 2 of them at 4 3/4 inch. And both the black seed and the sable are cut. You can cut them at the same time. They are cut at 2 5/8 inches, and you're going to need 4 of those squares. So everything's squares, and just the one white that we're cutting on the diagonal. All right, so we're just going to get started with a 4-patch, and we're going to make sure that we're pressing in the correct direction so that they all lock in their seams. So I'm just going to take all of these and just put the sable on top. It doesn't really matter, and sew a 1/4. I'm just going to stick with the same pattern, going through all of them, sewing on the same side. All right. And we'll make our little 4 patches. So come on over to the sewing machine. I'll do a couple. I'll do 2 so I can show you how to lock the intersections. So you hear that a lot about locking your seams. Very important if you want to try to get a nice intersection in the corners of your 4 patches so that they're not separated by a few little 1/8 of an inch of fabric. So I'm sewing this just at a 1/4, maybe a scant, a few threads shy of a 1/4. So don't over sew these seams. So, all right, and one more. You're going to do all 4. And what we're going to do is we're going to press these 4 units. I'm only sewing 2, but we're going to press all these units to the dark side in this case. So when I press to the dark, I always have the dark on top. And as I press away, the seam allowance goes toward the top fabric, which is our dark. So let me go ahead and press those. You don't want to stretch these too much. Give them a little bit of heat. The black seed is on top. Just going to go through, give them a nice press. This should be open as much as possible. You don't want to have any fabric on top of it, just a nice open seam. And we're going to press again toward the black seed. All right, so you're going to have 4 of these units. All we're going to do is we're going to turn one, and we're going to sew these 2 units into a 4 patch. So what I like to do is get started making sure my rectangles sit right on top of each other. And I'm going to start sewing 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to stop with the needle down, and I'm going to feel that these 2 seams that are going in opposite directions kind of lock into each other. As I drag it, it just kind of falls right into that spot. And then I'm going to hold on to that. We don't want that to move. Okay, so I'm going to get my block started here with my needle down, and then I kind of feel until I kind of, again, I drag my fabric until it falls right into that seam allowance. All right, so now that I have it, you can pin it if you'd like. I just kind of hold on to it so it doesn't shift. Match my next corner and sew off my unit. Okay. So this one we're going to press. It really doesn't matter in which direction we press, but we want to give that a nice press as well. So a little bit of warmth on my seam, and then press it to one side. All right. All right, so we have 2 of these units. Those are our small 4 patches. And what we want to do now is make a larger 4 patch by attaching our feather squares to our edges. So these are both identical. I don't know if you see, you can put the feather with the black seed up in the top right corner, the feather with the black seed up in the, these are identical in how we sew them together. And then of course all we want to do is flip this one around so that we have the black seed going down into a diagonal. All right, once we have that, we're going to press. I pressed toward the feather. As you can see, my seam allowance is toward the feather, and so is this one, so they're opposite. And once again, we can go ahead and lock that seam allowance so we have a really nice intersection right there. So again, I'll go ahead and start with a couple stitches, needle down, and get my next position ready to sew. So let's take a couple stitches with needle down, and now I'm looking at this intersection right here. I just kind of hold it and drag it until it goes right next to it. You'll feel it drop right into that, and that's called nesting. That is called locking your seams. So I just got my finger on it so it doesn't move. I give it a little bit of a pull just to get any slack out. And now I stop again with my needle down, and I'm going to get the next section ready. Match these corners, match my raw edges, and go ahead and sew to the end of this unit. So we're only going to make one of the large 4 patches, and now we're going to set it on point. Well, let's press real quick. Again, it doesn't matter really in which direction it's going to go. So I just put a little bit of heat on it, lift it, and just push away so that my seam goes in that direction. All right. Looks good. Good intersection. That's what we're looking for. And then the last thing we're going to do to this block is what we call setting it on point. So I have to make sure I have the right side of my white, and we're going to add these 2 triangles to opposite sides. So the easiest thing for me to do is to look at where the point is and line it up with the center of my block, which is that seam. So I'm just going to bring this down so my raw edges are matched. The point is in the middle, and I have raw edge right against raw edge. Okay, so I'm going to come 1/4 inch all the way across and out this side. It's not going to really hit that little intersection, but it will with the next one. So here's my 1/4 inch. Such an easy block for December. It's a great way to finish up the year. Make sure you keep those raw edges right on top of each other. It has a tendency to want to maybe curl or buckle a little bit, but hold on to it. All right. And then we're going to do the same for the opposite side. So I make sure I have the right side of my white. I'm lining up the point with the center of my unit, which is my larger 4 patch. And then I'm just bringing the raw edges together so that they meet on the ends. Okay, lined up, I'm okay to sew. So again, another 1/4 inch seam allowance. This is a long seam, so hold on to it because it might, again, have a tendency to want to slide off of the edge. So you can pin, pinning is fine. I just kind of hold it with my fingers and off. All right. So when we did, I ran out of bobbin thread. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to sew. So here we are. We have these two. Didn't check that, silly. So I sewed here. Next thing, we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're almost done. We're just going to lay this down, line up the point, sew a 1/4 inch all the way across, and this time you will get a little valley, which you're going to make sure that when you start to sew, it goes right into the deepest part of that valley right here and out the other valley as well. And again, we're going to press both of those away, and our block is finished. So this is 12.5 by the time when you're done, but when it's finished with the borders on, the block, of course, will be 12 inches. And again, very simple, just using a few fabrics. I think it's great for baby quilts or something large that you can get done very, very quickly. Just make sure you have some bobbin thread. All right, and I hope that you do sign up for next year. The new colors for basic will be out the 3rd Saturday of the month. That night before, we will put the video out for the new colors. I think you'll enjoy them, and thanks for watching.